Goeienaand, dis tyd vir Fokus hier op SABC 2. Baie welkom. Ek is Lenet Francis Peuren. Aanvalle op lang-afstand-busse is aan die toeneem. Hoewel die aanvalle reeds in 1986 die eerste keer aangemeld is, meen busoperateurs, daar was die afgelope 2 jaar 'n skerp toename in die aanvalle. Een van die busoperateurs, Interkaap, sê 150 van hulle busse is sedert die begin van verlede jaar aangeval deur gewapende misdadigers. Busoperateurs meen die aanvalle hou verband met sogenaamde beskermingsgeld wat deur kriminele elemente van hulle geëis word. Interkaap is een van die busdienste wat nie hierdie afpersgeld wil betaal nie. Met die naderende vakansietydperk is dit veral kommerwekkend, want baie Suid-Afrikaners maak van busdienste gebruik om in hierdie tyd by hulle vakansiebestemmings of by die familie uit te kom. Fokusregisseur Wane van der Heever het met die busoperateurs gaan gesels. Sy het ook van talle busbedieners verneem hoe gevaarlik hulle werk nou geword het. En net 'n waarskuwing, die inhoud van die program kan wel sommige kykers ontstel.
All the guns shot me, 4 bullets in front of the bus, and the other one they just shoot while he's running away.
En mense hulle vrek, hulle skiet my drywer, hulle skiet enige deur.
I've had staff members that had lost their lives, going back right back to 1986 where my drivers were shot at, some passed on.
Afpersing, gewelddadige aanvalle en moord. Dit is die daaglikse uitdagings vir lang-afstand-busoperateurs en hulle busbestuurders.
Bullet who hit me on my arm. So even today I have that pain. When I think that there's nothing I can do, I feel more pain than worse. So sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I think to go to work, I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do because I have a family, I have children to feed.
My drywer se naam is Diamond. Op die oomblik is nie hierso nie. Hulle het hom geskiet binne by sy bus in die gere terwyl by die rank is hy gaan die mense optel. So vroeg in die oggend. Hy staan by die rank want ons werk soos die taxi. Hulle het hom geskiet toe die bullet het gegaan die kant, toe het geval hy van onder die bus. Die tweede drywer het hom geskiet by sy gop by die pomp op. Met 17 bullet.
Bankie Kaya is vroeër in die jaar doodgeskiet en 2 ander drywers gewond net hier buitekant my kantoor waar ek nou sit by Kaapstad Internasionale Lughawe.
Operateurs van lang-afstand-busse sê hulle word geteiken indien hulle nie afpersgeld betaal nie.
And sometimes the guys get, very, very violent and, they'll threaten whatever. And because of your fear of your vehicle being there, and obviously the first priority is your staff, we're forced to pay that money.
Je moet protection vir gee. En dan hulle sal jou protect. No, ek kan nie, ek sal nie. Not a hulle kan my doodmaak, is reg. Dan hulle sê daai nie, hy is harde gehad. Gooi hom. Maar hulle bel jou oor die phone, hulle sê hulle soek 100, hulle sê 120,000. Die mense van taxi, hulle sê ons vat vir hulle mense. Ons mag nie doen nie. Ons moet laai 1 bus per dag. En ons moet haal uit die geld. Protection fee. Protection fee vir wat?
We would have to pay to get into an area to load, even though our permits allow you to work in that area. Or even if we have to take a special. And sometimes we would have to pay to continuously to work to get the services back into operation. Other than that, you can't work. So one's got to take a business decision to protect your life so that you could work. I mean, sometimes we would get threatened to say, I know where your wife works. I know your kid where your kid works. Your kid is studying here. Your kid goes to that school. Now, what do you do?
If you did not pay, it then became violent. We would shoot at you whilst you're in motion. We'll shoot at the driver whilst you're in motion. Or we will shoot the driver when he's on an empty leg, moving between points, and kill him. And then it heightens the tension and the elements, and then deftly speaking, from that emanated a band of whatever the word is, bandits who now saw an opportunity to say protection fee. We can help you with this problem and you won't be attacked if you pay us a fee. And certain operators gave into that, so it created another element of intimidation and extortion. And then ultimately those who did not conform to this new regime were really targeted, buses burnt, and criminal activities, to the extent that operators have received messages with bullets. You next.
Gee jy in tot hulle eise, dan handig jy die bestuur van die besigheid oor. Betaal jy die geld, dan is jy deel van die maffia. Dan is jy deel van racketeering, en daar is 'n wet, die pokerwet wat spesifiek teen dit gaan. Daar is die kompetisiewet. So as die wet jou nie gaan vang nie, dan gaan hulle vir jou uit besigheid uitsit. So ek het toe ek besef dat die taksies soek die sleutels van die maatskappy en beheer oor die maatskappy, en toe ek besef dat die enigste manier om uit dit uit te kom is of om die sleutels te gee of om omkoopgeld te betaal, het ek na die polisie toe gegaan. Die ander busmaatskappye het ek gesoebat en gesmeek by nie een geleentheid, maar vele geleenthede om saam met Interkaap te gaan na die polisie en die owerhede. Hulle het egter besluit om die taksies dan gaan gesels en te gaan onderhandel. Wat daar uitgekom het, wat hulle gedoen het en tot watter ooreenkomste hulle bereik het, weet ek nie. Maar wat ek vir jou wel kan sê is dat Interkaap is uitgesonder deur die taksies.
Net hierna hoor ons wat die taksiebedryf se reaksie is op die beskuldigings. Bly gerus ingeskakel. Welkom terug by Fokus. In deel 1 van ons verslag oor die aanvalle op lang-afstand-busse. Het is gehoor dat die minibus taksiebedryf blameer word vir die skietvoorvalle waarin talle busbestuurders gewond en selfs gedood is. Die busbedryf beweer die taksiebedryf eis beskermingsgeld van hulle en indien hulle nie betaal nie, word hulle busse aangeval. Die busbestuurders beweer die taksiebedryf beskuldig hulle daarvan dat hulle die taksi se passasiers afrokkel. Fokus Vania van die Juffers het ook met die Suid-Afrikaanse Nasionale Taksiraad, SANTACO, gaan gesels. Hulle ontken enige betrokkenheid by die geweld en die aanvalle op busse.
To make dead bodies, meaning corpse, but we are here to make money. This is business. We need to make money. SANTACO condemn violence in the strongest possible term. We do not support violence of any form or any kind. And the person or anybody who SANTACO is responsible for the violence, I think at this point that's a very serious allegation. We are not aware of anything, and we call upon law enforcement to do its job in that regard, and so that we can also, get the truth of who exactly is responsible for these fatalities. SANTACO and all our members knows it. SANTACO condemn violence in the strongest possible term.
Through all of that, these attacks, which were not necessarily criminal at the onset in the 2000s, have now become highly criminalized, a lot more organized. It started with little hints of intimidation and blocking, but it very quickly escalated into violent attacks, constant disruptions, burning of buses, and shooting and killing, and literally blocking passengers from their right to access bus transport. And it's now playing out in the current environment at its height, I think, because of various macroeconomic factors.
This burning of the buses started in the early 80s. In the early 80s, when I may be wrong, it could have one or two could have happened before. It was just all of a sudden, the drivers parked the buses at their houses. The buses were burnt whilst parking at their homes, because that's how we operate. We operate from in a semi-rural area. So to save costs, our buses park and stay at the drivers' houses, which virtually, they start from the areas where they are and come into the town. And in the last burnings, where we had 6 or 7 burnt on one day, but in different areas, in like 5 minutes intervals. And my drivers vehicle, well, I picked it up first because all our vehicles are linked to tracker, and I got a notification that there was some interference. And then as I started to phone the drivers, this was like between 12 at night, round about there, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. That's when the drivers confirmed, boss, our houses are on fire as well. So besides the bus was burnt, some of the houses were also set alight.
Basil sê dit is die rede vir die geweld.
It is perceived that the bus industry in its entirety gets funding, whilst other modes of informal transport like taxis and Uber and the Avanzas don't get funding. At the height of it, then it was about a domination of or a competition for the ridership. One bus of 60 passengers equals 3 taxis on the road, for example. But that's not necessarily the issue. The funding model and mechanism is the issue. Now, the funding is for buses, but not all buses. It's just for the contracts that government has. Those contracts have been static since 1998. The contracts have just been extended to existing operators. It has not evolved. All the policies have been put in place, but it's not transitioned. And unfortunately, it's created a whole environment of uncertainty. And throughout that period, there's been discussions for the taxi industry to become formalized to get into the space for funding. And that's not happening. It's taking too long.
I don't think we should cover that criminal act by getting an excuse of this because of this, because we're going to lose focus of the criminal act that is happening, which needs to be stopped. I think it boils back to say, we as you call us informal or formal or legal or illegal, but we condemn violence in the strongest possible term. We say if there are any challenges, they should be resolved over a table or in a boardroom, a kind of a process, and a solution should be found. A solution cannot be found by creating another problem, because when killing another person, it's another problem on top of a problem. Therefore, I wouldn't agree with the statement that say we should the focus from a criminal act and now focus on, because it's all allegations and without any proof of who is doing this and how it can be stopped.
Boa sê die minibus taksiebedryf is nie alleenlik verantwoordelik vir die geweld en die moord nie. Maar party lang-afstand-busoperateurs stem nie saam met Saboa nie.
There are certainly elements of the taxi industry and sub-associations preying on this process and directly involved in it. However, other criminal elements have now taken on to this, because in the dark of the night, in the quiet of an outlying town, to attack a bus, it's very difficult to put it down to a specific entity. Yes, there are elements that point towards that. Operator feedback seems to always point in that direction.
Is die taxi mense, ja. Samuzi isinkabi. Die zinkabi is alweer dis die mense wat die mense doodmaak. Jy sien hulle sit jou by die les. Ons gaan die en doodmaak, die en doodmaak, die en doodmaak.
Die bedryf, dit is die stert swaai die hond. Dat die taxibedryf vir die regering op 'n nasionale basis en ook op 'n provinsiale basis en hulle voer 'n skrikbewind as hulle nie kry nie. En dit is 'n informele ekonomie en dit is 'n ekonomie wat massief groot is. En wat vir my kommerwekkend is dat dit is 'n gewelddadige industrie. Daar vloei ongelooflik baie bloed. Nie geskroom om 'n lewe te neem nie. Oppositie vind, dan word jy eenvoudig net doodgeskiet. Vergadering uitstap. Van hierdie vergadering bygewoon het. Dus jou kontak en sê, praat met my, ek sê of jy laat weggaan. Om op die tafel, dan is dit betaal, en hier is die bedrag, en dan sal ek reël met die res van die ouens. So, vir 2 taxi-verenigings in die was 5 miljoen rand gewees. As provinsie 50 miljoen rand. Meer geld eis, en die ene kan hulle kere. So as jy afgaan in hierdie pad,
Bly ingeskakel, want die kwessie van aanvalle op busse het selfs in die parlement 'n draai gaan maak. Ons is nou terug. Welkom terug by Fokus, maar is daar enige oplossings vir die aanvalle op busse? Die saak is reeds in die parlement bespreek, maar dit is steeds nie duidelik hoe die busse beskerm gaan word nie. Hier is deel 3 van Wanie van der Jevers se verslag.
To do the best we can. We are from Parliament with the Minister Begicele in the Police Portfolio Committee, trying to get to the depth of this, especially as to why police cannot make arrests or get people sentenced for this violence. We could not get the truth. And even today, we're still looking for a solution to this, because if there's no law enforcement, obviously there's going to be continuous problem, continuous criminals acting as the industry without any proof that who those people are.
Die voorsitter van Santaco wou baie dringend met my geskakel het. Ek was in die buiteland die laaste maand. En toe ek vir hom sê, nee, dis nie 'n probleem nie, ek sal met hom skakel op een voorwaarde, die polisie en die departement van vervoer betrokke is, het ek nog nie weer iets gehoor nie.
Look, I wouldn't talk on behalf of the president. In my knowledge, the president himself condemned violence in the strongest possible term. Where I am seated, I do not remember of any meeting.
Government is corrupt, man. Die polisie is corrupt. Hulle is corrupt. Ek het lank al gesê die polisie is corrupt in Suid-Afrika. Hulle is corrupt. Ek was by die hof, ek het die sak teen die polisie, alles. Ons was by die hof tot vandag. Die sak is weg. Ek het gegaan by die minister. Hier is die brief. Hulle het met alles mee goed. Jy kan lees die ding. Ek kan jou kopie maak. Jy kan lees, ek het die sak, ek het court case. Daar is die court case. Die, wat noem julle hier? Die court order. Ek het court order, ek het 2 court order.
Daar's meer as 150 sake aanhangig gemaak. En dit is klipgooi en dit is skiet, poging tot moord in die Kaap is moord, ook poging tot moord. En daar's 1 arrestasie gemaak tussen die Wes-Kaap en die Oos-Kaap. En hierdie persoon is op vrye voet, op Borghof weg, en ons weet nie wat nou gaan gebeur.
Ma'am, all the cases were reported to the police. Going back to 1984 to now, we've had about 46 incidents where the buses were burnt and torched and drivers, whatever. I think we've only got a report of two. One report back place where they said they can't find anything.
Nog die president, nog Fikile, nog Bekkie, nie een van hulle het vorentoe gekom en eers die moeite gedoen om ons briewe te erken nie. Nie teruggeskryf nie, nie gebel nie, wat my aanbetref, niks gedoen nie.
When an incident happens, it is inevitable that your first port of call would be your local SABC. And a local SABC is not necessarily geared to deal with it, nor do they have the appetite to want to deal with it. So reporting it is onerous in the sense that they almost send you back to say, can you sort it out with the parties, rather than taking the information, logging a case, appointing an investigator. So where we do get that and the investigator is appointed, it's a dead end. There's no feedback mechanism. And for that purpose, I think we are all in this together. From an industry, we should have pushed harder for a reporting mechanism.
Nou selfs al die versoeke van ons kant aan die polisie en die departement van vervoer het dit ook geen reaksie opgelewer nie. Dit is ongelukkig al vir vanaand. Onthou, indien jy die uitsending misloop, Fokus is steeds op YouTube beskikbaar. Die Fokusspan bly ook tydens die feestyd op ons pos, so onthou jou afspraak elke woensdag aand met ons. Ons groet tot volgende woensdag aand om 7 en tot dan, totsiens.